Well, LA County and the city of Pasadena are taking steps to help renters impacted by the wildfires, from eviction protection to a moratorium on late fees.
But is it enough to help most of the vulnerable of the victims get back on their feet? On your sites, Christine Lazar spoke with renters about the challenges they're facing. We know it's many challenges.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many different segments of our population that are impacted by these fires, and renters have really unique challenges because they don't own the land that burned, right? Or if their place is still standing, they're not in control of how it gets cleaned. And so they can often feel very powerless. And then, of course, if they have to find a new place, they're thrust into a rental market right now, which we know is crazy. So it's a really tough time. In the city of LA alone, it's estimated that close to 1,800 units were lost to the Palisades fire. And we already know that the county has an affordable housing shortage of 500,000 units.
This looks like a bombing. This looks like a bombed out building.
Kate Alexandria's apartment above a business in Altadena was destroyed in the Eaton fire. It was small and nothing fancy, but it was her home. And it was affordable.
It was $2,000 a month, which is just really, really reasonable in Los Angeles.
In the weeks following the fire, Alexandria struggled to find a place to live within her budget. She did not have renter's insurance.
I've seen rents increased by like what would be, a $2,000 or $2,200 apartment last month going for $3,200, $3,300. And that's like, some of the less egregious stuff that I'm seeing.
Alexandria has a chronic illness and is disabled. She was supposed to re-enter the workforce the week after the fires.
If you don't have the job and you don't have the income, it makes the housing harder to get. So everything is kind of interacting and making every other factor more complicated here.
It looks like it all collapsed at the same time.
And Alexandria says it's been hard to find housing help.
I've applied for the Airbnb program. I'm one of the people who has not found any luck with that. I've applied for the LA 211 twice now, and I've gotten literally nothing. The fact that there's this push to go back to normal at the same time that me and so many other people who are really vulnerable are still houseless and being shuffled around is a really jarring juxtaposition there.
Los Angeles had one of the worst housing crises in the nation prior to the fire. And the fire has only exacerbated that crisis tenfold or more.
Tenants' rights advocate Larry Gross is with the Coalition of Economic Survival.
A lot of these people were living in places for a very long time and have a market, their rent is below market level. What happens to them?
Well, unfortunately, they're going to be facing a rental market where rents were higher prior to the fire. We were seeing people who are displaced having to pay double or triple their rents, not finding comparable housing in this area.
Renter Brantley Bush didn't lose his Palisades studio apartment, but the fire came dangerously close.
When I came back in, there was a mountain of ash outside the door. And when I opened the door, like I said, it was like a giant fog inside.
Bush says he reached out to his landlord, who told him to clean his apartment himself, which he is now doing, but he worries that it isn't safe.
It's not just ash and what we can see. It's this lithium battery stuff and asbestos that's burned.
Garrett Baker's rental home in Pasadena suffered smoke and ash damage from the Eaton fire. He shares the home with his wife and 2 young children. But when his landlord sent a crew to remediate the damage,
the maids did not have the proper PPE with them and also had household vacuums with them.
Baker says once he explained to the cleaning crew that it was a health hazard, they left. And when a second crew came,
they were using a rag and bucket to clean all of my 3-year-old's toys, and there was just no way to know the extent of the damage that had been done by this possible contamination. So you're wondering if it's the best thing to just throw everything away. It's such a mind game to know if your house is safe and if the things in your home are safe for yourself or your kids.
Gross says tenants can contact the housing department to have an inspector come out and check for code violations and health hazards at buildings that are still standing.
Larry, in your expert opinion, how long are we going to be feeling the impact in the rental market of these fires?
Unfortunately, years, maybe decades. This has taken a huge chunk out of our housing stock, and many, many people are going to, unfortunately, feel the effects of this for many years.
So would you say this is going to be almost as bad as what COVID did to renters?
possibly worse for people in this area.
Alexandria eventually found a place to live, a sublet in Los Feliz, but she stresses it's a temporary solution for a long-term problem.
It's not just as straightforward as, well, can I rebuild on my lot? It's like, can I find a lot to live on?
The LA City Council is also considering a package of tenant protections for fire victims, including a prohibition on certain evictions, such as for non-payment of rent. But unlike COVID, we are not seeing these sweeping eviction moratoriums because, as we know, that was also very detrimental to the small mom and pop landlords during COVID, many of them still recovering. So, a lot of different factors at play, but at the end of the day, we need to not forget that, yes, lots of homeowners lost their properties, and that is devastating. But renters also lost their homes, even if they didn't own them.
Well, and you made a good point when we were talking earlier, is like now some of these renters are competing with homeowners who had been in their homes and now
they
have
need to rent.
Right.
Yes, so you have more people flooding the marketplace, and a lot of them have gotten insurance payouts, so they're also more desirable tenants because they have that money in the bank. And some of these people have been living in their places for a long time. Maybe they don't have great credit, not a lot of expendable cash, as many of us are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's a difficult situation.
Difficult in so many ways. Christine, thank you so much.